Are Poppy and the prototype the same? Throughout all of Poppy playtime, we're fighting to put an end to what the prototype has started. Ever since the Hour of Joy, he's been ruling over the entire factory, with only a small group of toys who lived in safe haven to rebel against him. But now, it seems that we have a new enemy, Poppy. She's been playing the victim ever since the very beginning. We found her locked up in a case, and she told us how bad it was in chapter 2, and in chapter 4 we saw her run away from the prototype and she left us behind. And all of this makes sense if she's really on the good guy side, but I'm here to tell you that Poppy and the prototype aren't really that different. But what would explain everything is if I could prove that the prototype is Poppy's father. Let's start with the prototype's goal, and to figure that out, we have to see exactly what he's been doing. We know that he had a very deep hatred for Playtime Co. and its employees. In a chapter 3 tape, we hear him try to intimidate Sawyer by both changing his voice and even mimicking Sawyer's voice back to him.
I possess
a question.
Go ahead.
Do you feel anything?
This question referred to what exactly?
You stick us, beat us, tear at flesh.
Do you feel it? There's a secret inside you, 1006. Valuable beyond all measure. It excites me. Thank you. You thank me? Absolutely. I learn something new about you every day.
But that's not it, as in the chapter 2 tape, we hear of an incident where the prototype almost escaped containment. In the tape, the scientist says that the prototype managed to create a laser pointer out of a disassembled alarm clock, which then somehow managed to disable the camera, allowing him to hide in its blind spot. And when the scientists thought that he was gone, one of them went inside to check where he could have gone, and so the prototype took this chance and tried to make it for the door, but another scientist managed to remotely lock it, but the other scientist was still inside. And although the prototype could use the scientist as a hostage or at least do something with her, he decided to kill her. But there is one last thing I need to show you which will narrow down his motives. In one of the Project Playtime tapes, when the prototype is messaging us, he says that the Bigger Bodies initiative will fail, showing that his hatred isn't just for the company in general, but rather what they've done with the Bigger Bodies initiative and torturing all of the toys. And in response to this, he most likely waited a very long time while he made a plan, leading to the Hour of Joy, where he convinced many of the toys to kill literally everyone in sight to put an end to all of the experimentation. And so, with all of the employees dead, you would think that this would be the end, and that the prototype actually managed to finish what he started. But if it were that simple, I would not even be making videos right now. We know that sometime around the Hour of Joy, the prototype took the orphans who were still alive down to the labs. However, when Poppy mentions this to us, she says that they're asleep, most likely some sort of cryo sleep in order for them to survive this long. But one person that managed to survive the Hour of Joy is none other than Dr. Harley Sawyer. And this is important because we know from chapter 4 that they are working together on some sort of experiment. As in one of the tapes named Time, we hear a conversation between the two of them. And although most of this seems to be a power struggle between them, there's actually a lot of information about what they could be doing with the orphans, allowing us to further understand the prototype's motives. In the tape, they say that they're running out of time. They're trying to figure something out which Playtime previously couldn't, and they're working on some sort of experiment in the labs.
We just need more time to perfect the time. Time is precisely what we do not have. Then I suggest you find some more. That will give me labs access, at least with the two of us.
That is out of the question.
It's hardly ideal conditions. Even when this place was fully operational, we were beating our heads against this.
It seems to be that they're running out of time due to low food supply, as in the Chapter 4 teaser trailer we see that the toys are resorting to eating each other, even using hunting tactics like hiding and waiting for prey to come to you. And when we look at Catnap's body being dragged up by the prototype in the end of Chapter 3, we can see that this dude is literally skin and bones. I'm surprised this dude didn't break all 17 of his spine discs when he flopped over after we shocked him. But what's also interesting is the fact that they're working on something that Playtime previously couldn't figure out, and whatever they're doing is in the labs. And since we know that the orphans are in the labs, could this mean that the prototype and Sawyer are working on the first experiment that goes from toy back to human? It does seem to line up with all of the evidence, but now let's look at Poppy's motives. But before we start, I just want to tell y'all to be ready, because I'm about to get angry. In Chapter 1, we receive a note telling us to find the flower, and when we eventually do, we end up releasing Poppy from her case. Then in Chapter 2, she thanks us for freeing her from her case.
I wanted to thank you for freeing me. I was stuck in there for so long. Thank you. I'd like to pay you back.
Leading us to believe that she's not our enemy, but actually our ally. However, if you thought this, I know for a fact you were throwing haymakers when the train eventually switched tracks. And in case you didn't know, in Chapter 2, she switches the train tracks on us right as we're about to leave the factory, calling us perfect and saying that whatever she needs us to do, we're capable. And I'm already tweaking. This little 2-foot tall doll decides that after we both kill Huggy and Mommy, we need to stay in order to help her do more. Like, bro, a simple thank you would do. Wish me on my merry way, please. But this gets even worse, because in Chapter 3, after we get tackled by Poppy shows up, and she then tells us that the train crash hurt both us and her. But bro, you literally switched the tracks on us. You have no room to talk.
Looks like the train crash hurt us both. You've been through so much. You deserve an explanation.
But then, in Chapter 4, she tells us that her plan for revenge on the prototype is to kapoof the entire factory. Or as you might like to call it, a factory reset. Why are you looking at the screen like that? She tells us to use both mining charges and the red smoke in order to blow this entire place to bits. However, what's interesting is that she tells us that we'll only blow up the factory after we manage to save the orphans.
The plan is this. We'll fill the foundation with smoke and line it with old mining charges. Then once you, me, and Kissy have freed the orphans, our friends here will blow this place sky high. That's our revenge.
So I'm already seeing some very interesting similarities. Both her and the prototype are totally cool with destroying everything in pursuit of a goal. But not only that, but both of them seem to care about keeping the orphans alive. But what makes this even more apparent is the phone call we hear between Poppy and the prototype. Once we manage to kill Doey, we then slide into the ventilation block where Poppy is trying to get a hold of Ollie. But now is my time to shine, ladies and gentlemen, because how in the world are they still alive? This tiny piece of moving plastic told us to meet her back at Safe Haven, and yet she somehow managed to survive the explosion. And not only her, but Kissy too. Is that what you're trying to tell me? Poppy is literally the same size as all of the other smiling critters we saw in Safe Haven. She would literally have zero advantage over them, and Kissy would have a disadvantage since she's literally injured. So if you're telling me that they somehow managed to be the only survivors, Chapter 5 better have the most pristine, precise, and plot hole free explanation. Otherwise, I'm gonna go with the fact that Poppy was warned before the bombs went off. And not only is this crazy, but she managed to run out of the room right before the bombs went off in the ventilation block. And so it's either she knows what's going on, or this doll just knows how to dodge explosions like a cat in water or something. But here's the thing. In the phone call, the prototype tells us that it was him who took the explosions and put them to good use.
We've taken the liberty of retrieving those explosives from the Foundation.
Thanks for collecting those, by the way. I've put them to good use.
So if Poppy is dodging all of the prototype's explosions and they seem to have similar lines of thinking, then bro, how much more obvious can it get that they're actually working together? However, although they seem to be almost the same in these aspects, it seems to me that there's only one place they disagree in: the orphans. In the tape where Sawyer and the prototype are talking about their experiments, it seems that the prototype may not necessarily be torturing the orphans, but still needs them for some sort of purpose that Playtime was also trying to figure out. But if Poppy's plan includes us freeing the orphans from the prototype's control, then it seems that this could be the one place where they disagree. The prototype could have a motive for experimenting on them, thinking that it would be for the greater good, whereas Poppy seems to want to put an end to absolutely everything no matter the outcome. And so, although extremely annoying, Poppy seems to be using us in order to help her free the orphans. And we know this knockoff Wendy's logo looking dog can't fight for herself. She literally stood on Kissy's shoulder like a parrot in chapter 3. Does Poppy want a cracker or something? Which means that she needs us to do all of her dirty work, as we seem to be the only one who can operate a grab pack. But now that the prototype has separated us from Poppy, it seems that her only goal is survival, cause she left both us and Kissy behind. And when Kissy saw her run out of the ventilation block, we see her arm drop down, and she also looks like she's thinking about something, almost as if she's thinking, how could she do this to me? That little wretch. But here's where this theory takes a turn. If you remember back when we were about to fix the generator, Poppy told Doey to go look for the prototype, since the prototype disguised as Ollie said that he was outside.
Look, we need to talk about this. We shouldn't... Just give it a second.
Ollie? You there? He's
outside!
Ollie?
He's outside!
Ooh, oh no. You need to distract him, Doey. Please. Keep him away from here.
Without the generator...
I know, but he can't get in here. Not now.
But then once we fix the generator, with the prototype's help mind you, Poppy tells us to leave Safe Haven in order to go plant the charges. So if Poppy told both us and Doey to leave Safe Haven, that's when the place managed to explode. And she managed to survive 2 of the prototype's explosions. But for real though, Poppy 100% has to be working with the prototype. And so this whole charade of trying to freeze the orphans could just be a distraction in order to get us to do whatever she wants. And since we know that the prototype is smarter than Albert Einstein on Adderall while having a conversation with Poppy theory, he could easily be telling Poppy what to do using the Ollie phone and giving her all of the plans in order to get us to do exactly what he wants, which is even further supported by the chapter 3 story so far video, because in it, Sawyer says that we're being led down like lambs to the slaughter.
We need to be cautious. There's something... No! Kissy!
Which brings us to now, doesn't it? Down they come, like lambs to the slaughter.
Hinting that he's been leading us down here and we've been totally oblivious until now. And who do we know that Sawyer was working with? The prototype. And if the prototype and Sawyer can manipulate us, it's not a stretch to think that Poppy and the prototype can manipulate us. But like I said in the beginning of the video, what would absolutely seal this entire theory in stone is if I could prove that the prototype is Elliot Ludwig, and Elliot Ludwig is Poppy's father. To prove that Elliot Ludwig is Poppy's father is actually pretty easy, as in the chapter 4 tape named Untitled, Poppy says that she misses her dad who used to run the place.
I wish you were here, Dad. I could really use one of your talks right about now. You'd know what to say when you were running this place. You always knew what to say. I miss you.
And who do we know that used to run Playtime Co? Yes, I'm talking to you. Thank you, Elliot Ludwig. But in order to prove that the prototype is Elliot Ludwig, we have to combine a bunch of evidence, and even then, it's not 100%. However, combining the fact that the prototype cared about Poppy's life, grounded her by putting her inside of a case, and even says that it's always been what they are, we can see that the prototype has some sort of special relationship with her that someone like Kissy doesn't. But the cherry on top is that right before Kissy abandoned us, the prototype tells her that it's time to come home.
Prototype, please.
It's time to come home.
Poppy.
It's time to come home.
And so, with all of this evidence, I'm calling it right now. Poppy might be our friend for like 50% of chapter 5, but I guarantee you she's eventually gonna be sitting on the prototype shoulder like a parrot like she did with Kissy in chapter 3 and 4. But what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching, subscribe, and click on this video right here.